Yourself on that side too, guys. We're live. Hey, welcome everybody. Another Thursday night episode of The Good Life. Excited to be here with all of you again. Excited that we get a chance to have Stu in the building. We got Kobi here. We're doing some, we're missing Kevin again tonight, but it's okay, right? Like taking care of himself. So at the end of the day, you got us. And we are here to make sure that you are getting all of this knowledge and these nuggets from how to live the good life, right? So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show tonight. You're muted on this side, Kobe.
Rub that. Hey, sending love to Kevin. Hope you recover here, and we'll hold it down for you, brother. So, Stu, you want to go ahead and just say a little hello before we introduce what we're talking about today?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I mean, I guess this is week 6 now. Yeah. We're into this. We're into this month and a half. So I'm so glad we've been able to like touch on the introduction. We've had all the individual topics and sessions being held. And yeah, man, I'm ready to get this. And yeah, Kevin, best of luck with the health and everything, man. Hope you get through it. So yeah, I guess topic for the day.
Let's do it. First of all, I don't want to step over this, man. Stu, did you get cleaned up, man? You get
It was definitely necessary.
You looking sharp, brother. You looking sharp.
Thank you for noticing. I went from to I guess business overnight.
Yeah, it looks great, man. It looks great. So today what we're going to talk about, guys, is we all, most of us usually start the year with some sort of New Year's resolution, right? I'm going to be better at this. I'm going to be better at that. And being a health guy, I see it quite a bit in terms of, losing weight or being better, feeling better, etc. But it is now what? March 4th. And statistics tells us that a majority, I won't even give a number because it's probably higher than I think it is, have already dropped or are on their way to dropping whatever it is that they started the year with. So today what we're going to talk about is what did we start the year with as entrepreneurs and also in our individual areas. And how are we doing, and what are maybe some tips and things that we can share with each other and also with the audience? And feel free to chime in, audience. We could take tips from you too. We're not the only quote unquote experts here of how are you staying, on the grind? How are you staying consistent? What do you do when you get into what I call a dip, right? A dip. We'll draw it right here because that's like the word, right? When you get right here, when you get in the dip, how do you come back up? How do you keep going? So that's what we're talking about today. I think we can speak from it from a number of perspectives, right? I think from the entrepreneurship perspective, there's a lot of obstacles there. For me, for the health perspective, and I'm sure we started off with some financial goals at the beginning, and obviously we all want to be happy, right? That's the name of the game at the end of the day. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about today.
It's such a good topic too, and I'm glad that we can kind of jump in because think of the amount of people that make New Year's resolutions or they set goals at the very beginning of the year, and literally by a month in, they're out, right? They're just like not focused on it. They haven't held themselves accountable. So it's such an important topic. So, I'll kind of start it off because, in this entrepreneur journey and continuing to grow business and, just get to the place where your family life and your business life and everything is moving forward. At the end of the year, I always look ahead and say, okay, what do I want from this year? What is this year going to look like? What are we shaping up to and leading up to? And I was taught how to write out a kind of a vision or like a business plan of 10 personal goals, 10 financial goals, and 10 business goals, right? So that's kind of how I always start my years. 10 personal goals, right? So personal things, right? I'm going on a health journey now, right? Changing up the diet, changing up the routine, right? Going on a health journey. That was in my 10 personal goals, right? When I was thinking about it at the end of December, I was thinking about, okay, this is actually one of the areas that I want to focus on. So I put that in my personal goals. Then there's other personal goals that I have as far as, reading the Bible, right? Like we talk about our spirituality, and one of the things that, centers me and keeps me going is the fact that I'm, in my devotion life, in my prayer life, and those types of things. So I have that as personal goals, as like, I use the Bible app, right? So it can track, I don't know if any of you use it. It can track like how many days consistently or how many days a year you're on the app. And so I had a goal of last year, 330 days. I was like, listen, I'll give myself slack, right, on 30 days, right, just in case something happens, right? But I got 330 days that I want to get to. And so last year in 2020, I got to like 340 something days in my app because I was paying attention to it. So this year, right, it's 345 that I want to get to, right? I just keep it at where I was at and just continue to push. But those become personal goals. And then, right, I have financial goals, which again, this is my area of expertise anyway, is what we're talking about. So are you putting in savings goals, debt goals? How, when are you eliminating debt? What is your save? When are you going to get to $30,000 saved? When are you going to get to $100,000 saved? Right? Like, do you have those dates in mind, and are you working towards it? And then lastly, on the business side, for those of you that are entrepreneurs, right, having business goals, making sure that you're aligning, okay, your sales and your marketing. What are you looking at as far as clients? How many clients do you want to have in this year? Those are the things that I start to pay attention to as I'm putting together my yearly goals. And I break it down in those three categories: personal goals, financial goals, and business goals. So that's how I've been doing it. So what about you, Stu? Tell me kind of how you think about it.
So I've always, I don't know, I guess I have kind of a wing it mentality when it comes to my goals. And I really like to emphasize that because I honestly think it's because both my parents were like kind of like helicopter parents. And they always had like literally, like when I talk to my parents about my business now, they're like, wait, that's a cool idea. Is that in a spreadsheet? Like they always do that. Like everything I have to have is in like a spreadsheet or like whatever. And I really only had I would say two primary goals this year. And that was take my coaching business to like something that is very, very, very like financially stable, growing, has momentum, etc. Because 2020 was like the trial error year, right? And that was the really big one for me, because I think like for me, like what I started to identify is like I came from a place in construction management where I had a lot of the financial freedom, and I wanted to kind of like really, really reestablish that. And honestly, I wanted my entire focus, like 23/6. I'll say that because I'm not, I got to have my days off, right? But like 23/6, I'm always thinking about the business and growing it. And it's seen like huge upside because that's been like at the forefront of my mind. And the second thing this year was to really like continue to like fully commit, invest, and grow my partnership with my girlfriend Tina. And honestly, everything else I kind of kept a lot of the same patterns I had before. I have like general rules of thumb to make sure that I'm maintaining the other areas of my life: nutrition, personal fitness and activity. And honestly, the nice thing about working on a coaching business, as you guys know, is like you have to stay in a self-development role when you're in like the self-development industry. So I kind of figured that a lot of that would kind of stay in check because I knew I would maintain the integrity of like, if I'm practicing and preaching self-development, then it's gonna trickle into other areas of my life. But yeah, when it comes to resolutions, like, yeah, I have always kind of had that wing it thing. Like there's going to be like the first two priorities that I pour time and energy into. And then the rest of things I just kind of figured I would like maintain and like get a little bit better. But yeah, it was a different year for me when it came to resolutions. It was much more like open-ended and less like you will do this, and this many times.
That's big. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Kobi, jump in, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Different perspectives as to how we approach it. For me, I'm probably a little bit more organized in the sense of like I have, New Year's, In my family, New Year's is not about drinking. New Year's is not about going out. New Year's is not about friends. New Year's is about family. And when I was a lot younger, it was about, with if you're in Ghana, or I don't know where else they do this, but with typically we would do what's called a watch night service where everybody gets together, community. And in Ghana, it's actually larger than just the Christian community. It's actually all of the community gets together, and you kind of pray and bring in the new year, right? So my family always set kind of the standard of like, that's how we bring in the new year. So, and kind of as I grew, I took that and expanded on that and made it, a night with me and my honestly, whoever I was with at the time, but now I'm with my fiance, we sit down and we talk about what do we want to do this year, or how did last year go, right? How did last year go with what our relationship, our business, and we actually have a little chart it's like a fun little creative chart that we put together, we really, it's not so much like we're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps to take, but it's so let's dream together.
That's good.
Right? Let's dream together. What is it that, have our dreams changed, right? Do we want something else, right? So let's, in every category, let's dream together. So we set financial goals. Obviously we set business goals, we set family goals, we set our personal goals, and then share it with each other. So we do a little exchange every New Year's, right? So I've kind of like, when we do have like something to go out to or something that, we do it the day before, right? So we have our thing like set. And truly for me, it's that whole week going into that new year. I love doing that stuff anyway, like just dreaming, planning, and thinking about the future and putting that things in place. So doing it with somebody who's like in the same boat as you, like we riding this together, makes it that much better, honestly. And I find every single year without fail, it brings us closer together, clarifies the vision that we're running with, and puts us in a space where it's like we enter the new year with a fresh slate, right? And I'll tell you this, we could be like the week before, we could be like bickering and like going at it, but like, when we start really like nailing it down, like, shoot, man, we are together because we wanted to do this together, or we share the same vision, we share the same goals or whatnot. So I have a doc, both a written doc and a poster doc that I put up, and review that every year, and that kind of guides the decisions that I make throughout the year. So that's how I look at it. And so far this year.
No, I was gonna say, man, that's super good, Kobi. Like, I didn't want to cut you up, but you're firing me up because
please. I'm done.
I literally just talked about this. I held a little webinar that was about relationships and money. And one of the things that I talked about was making sure that one of the ways to get on the same page and get on the same page with your spouse is to plan your vision together. It's to get on the same page about your long-term vision and where you're headed. Because when you get on that page of a long-term vision, it makes the short-term decisions a lot easier. So oftentimes, and where I was going down this on this webinar was, oftentimes we have opposite money habits from our spouse or from our partner. We have opposite money habits. And so in order to make the relationship work long term, you have to find a way to find a common ground and get on the same page. So one of the frequently asked questions that we get a bunch when we work with couples is like, hey, my spouse has horrible money habits, or like my spouse doesn't care about the money, but I do. So how do we kind of, how do I bring them on board, or how do I get them to understand what it is that we want? And I normally say do you have a shared long-term vision? Do you have a shared vision of where you're going? Because if you don't have a shared vision, it's very easy for you to now not have any, care or concern when it comes to your short-term money decisions, right? If we take this to the scriptures, right? There's a scripture that says, where there's no vision, people perish, right? In another translation, it says, where there's no vision, people cast off restraint, right? People cast off restraint. So what does that mean? That means when there's no vision up ahead in your marriage of where you're going, it's very easy to cast off restraint financially. It's very easy to be like, yeah, we can buy that, we can have that, because there's no vision. And so what you said, Kobi, like that's the reason why you guys are strong and that you'll continue to grow, is because that shared vision is like everything when it comes to goal setting and planning, and especially in your money, you know?
1000%, 1000%. And you know, not to take over the relationship piece right here, shout out, but what I've found, man, is in being in a relationship where we come from very different backgrounds, it's even more important, bro. It is even more important because we got one ideology set coming here, we got another ideology set, and then we've got everybody else that's sitting there with their opinions, right? So we're not solid on what we want. If we're not clear on what it is that we're creating, the wind will come and it'll just blow, 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 and we'll just go in whatever direction, right? And when the ship, right, when the boat, ship, whatever you want to call it, let's call it, maybe let's get off the water, whatever it is. Same bicycle. Let's think of bicycle, right? You can't drive it in too many different directions. So I think that's so key right there, financially, health-wise, how you want to run your household, how you want to live, and I think that's the fun stuff that a lot of folks miss out on in a relationship, is really like, you get to create together, you know, and through that creation process, focusing on that creation process, you really bypass or go through hard times easier, in my opinion, or you have more tools.
That's it. You have more tools to get through those times. That's exactly what it is, right? Like you're more connected. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I love this so much. It's very interesting because, you know, I've had a bunch of conversations with Tina about, you know, like what we both want out of life, like where we're both heading, like, you know, stuff like, you know, how many kids, where we want to live, you know, do we both want to work, like all different types of topics, like we pass them around, etc. But, you know, maybe, you know, we're a year in, we're not as far down the road as you guys, but I just think it's awesome you guys have like what sounds like a vision, like a dream board together. Because that really does like hold it down and kind of keep it at the forefront of y'all's mind, especially having that visual in the apartment. So yeah, I'm taking notes. I like that, because it really does, like, it's difficult enough if you don't have your own vision or dream board. It's difficult enough to keep track of all your shit and keep it at the forefront of your mind as you make all those like financial decisions, etc. For one example, but then to do that with another person and to bring in those separate ideologies. I mean, I think it's great. Like, you guys coming from y'all's two different backgrounds, like I'm dating a Brazilian, and like, you know, there's so many different cultural influences that you really do have to iron this stuff out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's interesting what we're talking about here, because we're you know, we started the conversation on the idea of like New Year's resolutions and goals and what we're sticking with and all that stuff. And it, you know, it does get more complicated when you bring the partner involved. So do you have a process? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say, right, like putting that process in place is it's the most important thing, right? Like otherwise you have no shot at hitting your goals, right? You have no shot at, and that's why we're doing this, is to kind of check in and make sure that people understand that, yeah, you might set those goals at the beginning of January or the end of December, but if you have no system in place for changing your habits, for continuing to look at your goals, for going down this process, there's no way you're going to hit it. Not to mention if you have a spouse or a significant other that also has goals, like what is it that you do to continue to keep it going? And I think that's a good question for all of us, but both of you guys, right? Like what are what are you putting in place to make sure that you're hitting these goals, that you're staying consistent, or you're doing what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Well, I do want to jump in with one thing. I think just to clarify, like, do you still have a chance of hitting your goals if you don't have like a written out process or a visual? Yes. Are your chances a hell of a lot higher if you have a process? I mean, from the engineering background, from everything these guys are going through, like processes help a lot. They might sound dorky, they might sound clunky, but once you start them and get used to it, it streamlines everything. It takes decisions out of your day when you can just reference the visual. So is it possible to hit your goals without the process? Yes. Is it, in our experiences, I think as a collective, I'm seeing a lot of head nods, far more likely to hit it with the process? Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Stu. I think that's a great point. And to address your question specifically, Chris, which was what do you put in place, right, to, I'll say, correct me if I'm wrong, like keep that same energy throughout the year, right? What do you put in place? And I think for a lot of folks, what I've seen is setting or dreaming, what I call dreaming together is daunting, because it's like it's a whole year. It's like 12 months, like it's so far, like, right? Maybe that's less and less as you get older, but I think in your middle, like 20s and maybe even like late early 30s, it's probably daunting to some. Break it down into segments, just like businesses do. You have a yearly goal, but you also have quarterly goals, right? And then you have monthly, and then you go weekly, and then you go daily, right? So for me, I'll relate it to health. I think everybody should think about their health as something that is improving every single year, right? So every single year you should be adding a new layer to your game, just like a professional athlete, not like athletically, but
So, I was going to say, that's just crazy, because that's exactly how I think of money. I tell our clients the same thing. Like every year you should be either making more money or have more money saved. Like that would be the goal, right? Like progressing. So
at 1,000%. So, you may start out this. So for example, you shouldn't be trying to lose weight every year. Every year ain't for losing weight, brother. You get that you can do that pretty much. So if year one, listen, I got to get back. All right. Year one is focused on weight loss. We break that down into quarterly, right? And it's not just any type of weight loss, but you go first, you drop the weight in terms of imagine a big, beautiful marble or clay or something, right? You start chipping away a little bit and you get it into kind of like the shape that you want a little bit, right? Then maybe next quarter you define it and chisel it out a little bit, and then the next quarter you do a little bit more, and next quarter you do a little bit more. But then next year you got to think about it in a different sense of like, now I'm not just losing weight, now you're increasing performance, right? How do your body actually function? Right, so I think every year you want to think about it as, LeBron James adding a new layer. And I apologize if you don't like sports, or I'll try to think of another. If you're an artist, right, add a new layer to your. If you're a musician, right, add a new. You want to add a new layer to your skill every single year. And I think setting it up like that, making it a fun game like that, where it's not just like you're just around New Year's you're scrambling to lose weight every single year. It actually makes the process more effective and more enjoyable and more rewarding, in my opinion. So, for me, like this year, obviously I'm not trying to lose weight. This year, what I'm trying to do is increase and unlock my athletic ability. So I'm working with a movement specific coach to work on my explosiveness and to take me to the next level. I'm not training for anything, right? I just know I want to get to another level.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's so good. And again, back to the point of this show, for everyone that's listening and watching, like the point of the show is to give you the components of what we call the good life: health, wealth, love, and happiness. So today we're talking about, the New Year's resolution and what we're doing and if we're on track. But think about it in those 4 areas, right? Like, do you have a goal every year for your health? Do you have a goal every year for your financial life? Do you have a goal every year in your relationships? Do you have goals in your personal development, in your mindset, in your being? Like, do you have goals written down that are in place for you to improve in all these areas, right? It's really hard. And just like Stu said, right? Like, does it mean you can't hit your goals if you don't have these processes? No, right? But it's really hard to hit something that you're not tracking, that you're not measuring. And if you don't know what the bullseye is, it's really hard to get to a place, right? And so that's what we want you all to focus on. And that's what we're talking about today. By the way, if you're just joining us, right, like hit the thumbs up on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, right, throw that thumbs up, because that's how people will start to see this. And again, we're trying to get you this information so that you can change your life, so that you can use this to live the good life in all those areas. But absolutely, it's important to put these things in place so that you can start to grow in these areas and track your growth and measure your growth. Because otherwise, how do you know if you're growing, right? How do you know? How do you measure growth in your relationship, right? How do you measure it?
Yeah.
Nothing written down, right?
I think I'd like to address that next, but to be more specific in terms of putting things in place as well, I think definitely, like I said, break it down, and also you want to built in a reward system, right? A kind of a back and forth system, right? So in Q1, if I hit my goals, I'm gonna take a little camping trip or whatever it is, right? I think you want to put in that type of stuff for yourself. A lot of people for health will go, I lose 20 pounds, I eat a Twinkie. Listen, fine. If that's what gets you going, fine, let's do it. But I put things like that in place. And I think you also want to put accountability in place, right? So whether it's being part of a group, right? These gentlemen right here as entrepreneurs, even though we don't necessarily chat too much necessarily on these calls about entrepreneurs, just showing up every week keeps me accountable. Pardon? Yeah. Hey, mark this here. Let's go ahead and cut that, and we'll bring it all back in the next show. But yeah, those are my 10. And what are I'll offer the floor for you guys to offer kind of specific things to put in place to maintain your energy throughout the year.
Man, I think clear definitions. I feel like every call we talk about definitions because it's that important. Like if you brought up the goal of, I want to lose X weight. Like while we all have different feelings about that, like at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of, if I know what I want my end result to be for the year, my commitment to myself is going to be do the number of reps. Like do a certain, for example, I want to get in a specific level of shape. I'm kind of the same for you. Like I continuously want to get in better and better athletic shape. I literally obsess about it to my own healthy degree, because I'm not training for anything. I'm not trying to be like Mr. Olympia or like whatever. I want to know what I can do. And for me, it's like, I'm going to exercise in these different types of cross training, this frequency per week, because I know that if I'm doing that, there's absolutely no way I'm not going to continue to grow. And along those routes, I also have different, okay, let's say it's a running day. I know what my normal pace is. So if I'm continuously running at my normal pace, then I need to start setting a record, or setting a goal of let's slightly decrease that pace a little bit. If I'm running 5 miles in 45 minutes at a 9-minute pace, let's get that to 8:45 in the next quarter, or more, whatever you want to bite off. But I think the very clear definitions, I hear a lot of people say they're going to go for a run every day. And honestly, if you're not in the habit of going for a run every day, that's a big enough deal. Don't even worry about that. If your last goal, to kind of add that level, if your goal for last year was to go for a run every day and you hit that 95%, awesome. Now it's, I'm going to go for a run every day. To what pace? To what distance? What is your new barometer, your definition of success? Because if you're not defining very specifically what success is in your goal, then man, you're going to keep chasing, you're going to keep second guessing, you're going to keep wondering was it good enough? So take all that opportunity for self-doubt to creep in and make your goal very, very specific in how you're going to measure success.
Specificity.
Specific goals, I like that.
Specificity. I talk about it all the time. It's how unclear are we on a lot of our goals? That's why we never reach them, right? Again, bring this into the financial sense. People are I want to be rich, or right, I just want to be comfortable. That's one I hear a lot, right? Oh, I just want to be comfortable. I don't need much money. I just want to be comfortable. Great. What does that look like?
What does it mean?
Yeah, like, I get it. Like, so do I. I want to be comfortable as well. However, what does that mean to you? Like, can we put a dollar amount on that? Because that then becomes the specific goal, right? It becomes the thing that is going to get you that feeling, but it's not going to be this vague, I just want some money. Like, I get it, right? And so that is,
you get a dollar check.
That's it.
Sign that goal right off.
There we go. Done and done, right? I got some money. There's some money. So yeah, getting clarity and specificity in their goals, key. So
yeah. You know, what's interesting is when we opened up here, I kind of mentioned how, you know, when it came to my resolutions this year, I kind of winged it. I had my 2 priorities, and I just knew that given my personality, I'm going to pour everything into it, and it's going to work out. But with some of the other ones, I'm definitely going to go revisit it, because I have a wing it mentality for a lot of things. And it's very interesting because it really wasn't always like that. But if you find yourself like me winging a lot of stuff, recognize that one of your biggest weaknesses is probably going to be specificity. It's probably going to be those definitions. So if you have the wherewithal to go forth with the wing it mentality, knowing that you're going to do it, great. But if you just know that you're going to have to pay attention to whether or not specificity is going to help you, or if it's something that you're ignoring and it's hurting you. So that's definitely something I like to revisit. I'm going to go ahead and do that after this, because I know I could definitely clean that shit up now that the business is kind of taken off, my relationship's taken off. I can actually get back into the weeds on some of those other ones. So I'm glad we talked about that.
It's great. It's great insights, Stu. And I would just ask you this follow-up question, like for Everett to kind of give value. If someone is in that spot, right, they normally are a wing it type of person, or I'll get there, I know kind of what I'm doing, but they don't have it. Like, is that process difficult for you to get specific? And if so, like, you know, any tips, any guidance of like how to sit down and just get specific on what you want?
Yeah. So I think I've got like a 2-part answer for that. I think number one, individuals who are winging their goals, are you being realistic with the progress you're making? Like if you look back to 2020 Stu, 2019 Stu, 2018 Stu, have you been progressing? Or is your ego just totally getting in the way and convincing you that you're doing stuff, but in reality you're treading water? So one is analysis, like honest analysis with yourself, because we lie to ourselves, if you're not careful, way more than we lie to anybody else. So check on that. And then 2, like, I think it is difficult going from winging it to a organized approach, because discipline is required. Like if you have a lot of energy and a lot of like unbridled passion, you can get really far. And as long as you're doing something to kind of track it, like you can kind of like what we talked about earlier, you can progress. But you know, if you do really have to take a moment and just get over the hump of the fact that your ego is going to stop you. Your ego is going to be like, hey man, you don't need to do that. You don't have to track that. And what's interesting is, like, I used to really believe that I don't have to track shit in general because I had to track so much stuff at work. I was like, I'm at work in spreadsheets all the time. I am not doing this outside of it. But as soon as I stopped having somebody tell me to track stuff, like my parents, I started to realize just how important it was, because you really, like, you know, I'm 29 years old and I'm really starting to see the power of doing the little bit. It does not take much time. It takes time to set up the tracking method. After that, it makes your life easier. You don't have to second guess and go into all that. Right. So is it hard? Yes. Is it your ego that's in the way? Absolutely. Because you're so focused on living in the moment and doing whatever you want and just trusting that you'll get there. But man, that's a whole lot of faith without a lot of like real statistical analysis, I guess. So you really are at risk of that ship or that bike just kind of going wherever the wind blows, like Kobi was saying. So
that's big.
Yeah. And Guys, I want to offer again. I think we should do maybe another call here in terms of the logistics of like putting this stuff together. But I want to offer a system that's helped me quite a bit, which is again looking at it from the yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily aspect. And I think you have to look at it a little differently when you look at the different lengths of time, right? So I'm looking this direction because on my wall here, I have my year at a glance. And those are just monuments. They're just big things that I know has to get, like, these are the big things I want. And so I put on big fun things, big business things, big family things. And it actually looks pretty like clean on there. So that is, we take the dreaming stuff, right? Dream with your partner, dream with whatnot. Take all that stuff and then place the big things, the big rocks on the year at a glance. All right. I highly suggest doing that. And then the quarterly, I'll say you plan that, meaning that like at the end of the quarter, what do I want to have accomplished? And then and then at the monthly level, you schedule it. All right. And then, but I think on the weekly level, right? I think on the weekly level where I have a template that I utilize. And then on the daily level, Stu, you mentioned priorities, right? So yes, you have things set, but working in the order of priority. What is the priority top down of like, even if my day gets so crazy, I know these 2 or 3 things have to be done every single day. And I think you get a sense of freedom from that, actually, not really, if not a sense of, for me, I got a sense of freedom from it rather than a sense of being locked to it. When I think about it in terms of like you mentioned priorities at that level. Now the priorities stem from all these other pieces that I've mentioned. So I'd highly recommend doing that. If you need help with that, I have a template that I love that I use that I'm more than happy to offer to anybody. So feel free to hit me up at Cut the Noise. More than on Instagram, more than happy to offer that template to anybody. And it's that template I personally write out almost every day. I rewrite that template every day. And that template gives me a quick snapshot of what it is that I decided. What are my priorities for the year? What am I committed to? What is my mission statement? What is my affirmations? All of that stuff. I put it all in one template. I create it once a year and I tweak it throughout the year and rewrite it throughout the year. So it may not be here right now, but I guess I have it upstairs. But I get a blank book, blank journal, create my template for the year, and then I rewrite to remind myself. How do you keep that same energy? To remind myself of what it is I said I'll commit to. And the more I do that, the more of that stuff that gets done. So the year that I did it for 365 days, that was a great year.
How long did that take you, Kobi? Like how much time are you spending on your process of goal setting and writing these things down to
setup and maintenance? I think
daily. So again, I do it. I front load it, right? So front loaded, like I said, that week of going into the new year. I take that time to really free myself and take the time to dream, because you're in the shower and you think of something. So I'm in a state of meditation on that, if you will. And so I create that then. Daily takes me like definitely no more than 15 minutes. I could probably do it in like 10 minutes. And it's super quick. I'm upset. I usually have it like literally right next to me that I can show you guys. And it's just a quick little template that, again, it's a cheat sheet of what it is that I'm up to.
Wow. So 15 minutes a day gives you that clarity to understand exactly what needs to get done, what you're looking at, what you're looking towards. So that's interesting, because again, there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, it takes too much time to plan, or it takes too much time to get organized, or all of that, those things. And right, to hear that, hey, you're front loading this with time and energy up front, right, just from a mental capacity standpoint. But then it's 15 minutes a day, right? Like it's nothing. It's nothing once you get into the habit, right?
Yeah. And if I love hearing people say, I don't have enough time to do that, because I'm like, bull.
Right.
What are you wasting your time on?
I
You're
would
wasting
say
on something.
yeah, Stu,
Like
100%.
unless you're running 3 companies and have a family, like you've got time. You've got it. You're just lying to yourself. So like honestly, like for me, like when it kind of goes to the wing it thing, I feel comfortable having like here's how it's so I'm a weird dude, man. Like I know I'm doing things okay when I'm able to have fun guilt-free. If I'm having fun guilt-free, it means that things are moving forward at a pace that I am comfortable with. And if I'm sitting down, y'all know me, I game. If I'm sitting down to game or thinking about going out or paddleboard or whatever, and I feel guilty about the time I'm spending in that fun state, then there is something wrong. It means that I'm not accomplishing what I want to accomplish, whether it's a daily thing, a weekly thing, or so far this year, whatever. So that's how like I think us wing it folks like use that barometer. It's like, are you having guilt-free fun, and are you being honest with yourself? Because like for me, if I feel guilty about taking time off, it means that I'm either not seeing the results or I'm not putting in enough effort. Something's off.
That's interesting, man. Because when I hear that guilt-free fun, what I see in I guess, and by the way, it's really interesting, but I'll touch that later. But what I hear more is like within what I'm up to, I'm free, right? So I don't need to worry about like, oh, am I doing what I need to do and I need to right? So no, I got a plan. I executed it. Now this is my free time. Like I'm not missing anything. There's I haven't set. But to do that for me and my brain, the way it works is I need to define what that is up front, like I said. But within my day, right? Within my day, I'm not like oh, I'm so hardwired, guys. Like I'm not. That's not the situation, because people are like, wait, you do so much playing, like what's so up? True, but with that structure actually allows me to be free, right? So it's kind of like the fish tank or whatever. Like it's structured, but the water inside is free. You know what I mean? The water inside, but within a structure that I'm comfortable with. So that gives you that guilt-free. I'm still within my pool. Like there's no sharks here. I'm good. That's what I hear when you say that from my perspective as a planner.
Interesting. No, I mean, I think for me, I am able, like I'm right there with you. I'm probably just a little bit further behind in the organizational and planning route, because the times when I'm like really, really dialed in and like I have my whole calendar for the week like planned out, those are the times when I literally can go from immediately going from like a work call to relaxing and right back to it, like, or immediately like be fine when I get off, because I don't have anything I don't have to sit there and think, man, I don't really have much going on right now, or
am I missing something?
Happening? Yeah, am I missing
something?
Question. Oh my God, that question sucks. But it's a question you got to be honest with yourself about.
Am I missing something? Does that happen to you as a wing it person, Stu? Like, do you feel like you're missing stuff a lot because things might just be winging it?
I feel like that question presents itself.
Because I'll just tell you, I'm the opposite.
Can you ask that one more time?
No, I said like when you're winging it. Actually, I don't even remember the question, but I'll just tell you.
I think you asked if I was like based on the wing it ideology.
Yeah.
Does the question of am I missing something arise a lot?
Yeah,
and I think it arises a lot when that gut, I don't know, man, my gut is such a driving factor. Like when my gut is telling me that something's off, because I came from a workaholic culture. So like it or not, like I actually love it. I still have a lot of energy that I have to utilize. And you can't get rid of that type of energy through having fun. So for me, like if I'm stressed out and I start getting asked the question, I think it happened a lot more last year when I didn't have a clue what I was doing, like just finally getting into everything. And there's so many options and so little experience. Yeah, that question came up a lot because it's an overwhelming question because the amount of possibilities that flow from that are infinite. So I think that question arises when you're the wing it type of person, when you do not have a productive schedule. If you are not actively creating and producing, that question will definitely come up. Yeah. So what's the best way to do that? Plan it out. Does my ego get in the way of that sometimes? Yeah. Does thankfully the momentum of becoming busier as an entrepreneur force me into like a process-oriented state of mind? Absolutely. And I think that's one of the nice things about how I'm like that messy action person until it gets too much. Now I need a process. Now I have the experience to create the process. So it's like a maybe what we're really talking about here is the order in which you create like the process or like the productivity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, man. It makes perfect sense. The reason why I asked the question is because I'm more on the structured side. Like I've always planned, tracked, looked at stuff, right? Like I've always kind of gone down that path. Yet I've still felt that feeling of that guilt of like, I'm missing out, or I should be over here when I'm actually over here. And a lot of times that just came from me in my own mind, kind of just not being content where I was, like just always. And I think we might have talked about that last week about that word content, right? But really just like, spending time with family, but I'm like, I should be working. And then I'm working and then I'm like, I should be spending time with family, right? And just kind of beating yourself up down that path. That it was something that I had to learn how to curtail. Like I had to learn how to speak better to myself so that when I was in the moment, right, that I could be like, no, I'm here and I want to be here. And this is what I get out of this. And that I'm not thinking about until I'm there. And then I'm in that side. And that had nothing to do with my planning or writing that, because I would already plan it in, but it was still something internal about me just kind of beating myself up or not giving myself that grace to be able to say, like, when I'm with family and I'm okay with that and I'm not missing out and I don't feel bad that I'm not in business or doing work or something like that, because when I'm at work, I'm 100% locked in there as well. So I don't have to feel bad about the other side. So that was more of my internal dialogue that I had to overcome. But none of it had to do with my planning or strategy or any of that type of stuff, because I was already there,
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, for planners. That's where I was getting at with like the water in a structure, man. It really is a balance, right?
Thank you.
You need that structure, but you also need that fluidity, that ability, spontaneity, right? And I think what really helps with that is truly, it's not a schedule, but it's priorities, right? It's priorities over schedule. The schedule helps, right? You place the big rock, so you're utilizing the time well, so you're not leaving it. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, I'm not going to stick to my schedule. I'm going to stick to my priorities, right? What is it that I'm committed to right now? What is it that I'm committed to in right now where I am? And I think another piece for planners too is like, be where your feet are planted. Where your feet are planted, be there. Right. So if you are here with family, don't be here with work. If you're here with work, don't be here with play. If you're here with play hard. Don't be here with other stuff. Right. And that's probably, I say that because I'm talking to myself.
Because we all need that reminder, man, because it's true. Because all of our lives, they intertwine, right? That whole balance word, harmony, right? Harmony, right? Like, just how does this whole thing flow in our lives? And that's what it's about. I think we've all gotten to that place, and probably people listening have gotten to that place where it's hard to be in the place that you are and not thinking about the thing that you maybe feel like you neglected, the thing that you didn't do the best on, or whatever the case is.
See, that's why I love these conversations. I'm so curious about that, Kobe, in a second. I have no idea what that is. I'm like beanbag chair. So this is why I love the dynamic that we have here, because we're talking about what is I think I could easily describe as, you know, the balance or harmony between structure and spontaneity. And, you know, you guys, I would say lean a little bit more on the structure side. I lean a little bit more on the spontaneity side, and they each have their pros and cons. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because everyone has to find their own balance and identify the strengths and weaknesses of your personality trait when it comes to structure versus spontaneity. Because I do not have a single problem. If I'm like, aside from like those occasional moments where things aren't right, like 99% of the time, if I'm like at play or at work or at the gym, I'm so damn present. What is a problem? What is a potential con that often arises with that is like, man, I could be going like any which way, but am I going towards my goal? So like you have to understand, for those listening, like what side do you relate to more? And I would not think of it as a a black, white, on off issue. It's a percentage thing. What percentage do you lean structure? What percentage do you lean spontaneity? What are the pros and cons of that shift? And then, we'll focus on the things that, that help strengthen those weaknesses, and also play to the strengths. So like, if you're automatically like a planner, etc., then how can you develop a plan that allows you to trust what your past self, bear with me for a second, how can you develop a plan that allows you to trust what your past self came up with? So as Kobe said, you can actually plant yourself in that moment and know, hey, I planned this shit. That's what I do. Like, I planned this shit so I can sit here and be present in the moment. And then for like, I guess for me on the other end, like if you have all that spontaneity, like if you find yourself getting lost in the moment a lot, remember that happens. And remember, like, I'm like here, but let me check back in with what my past self said I should be doing. Let me go to Google Calendar. Oh, damn, I have not been doing that today. Now I get to do that later today. Or I put it off and now I've missed a goal. And so, you have identified the pros and cons of where you fall on that spectrum, I guess, is like where I'm getting.
It's big, man.
Yeah.
Kobe, tell us about that circle, man.
Yeah. Oh, man, the thing that keeps coming back to me over and over in this conversation is it's not balance. You're right. It is harmony, because it is and I'll say, it's fluidity, being fluid, being like water. That whole idea, right? But water is not weak. Water is powerful, right? And water is in any state useful. All right. So, but it also, it can be contained for the time being, for a period of time, right? And so that's what I always go back to, these Taoist principles that I've been studying for a little bit now, and it dives into that harmony quite a bit, right? And I think when we're out of harmony, right, when we're out of harmony with our environment, that's when we get into health issues, right? Most health issues is an indication of us being out of harmony with our environment, period. You could probably stop right there. Say that again?
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
Maybe provide some examples.
So being out of harmony with it, let's start feet. Let's go feet up, all right? We're out of harmony putting our feet in cages, right? Our feet should be having intimate contact with the ground. And that alone has led to so many health issues, right? I could keep going. Out of harmony in terms of how we build our homes. All right, we continuously insulate, we continuously throw all this stuff out here, and then next thing you know, you have dust mites and this and that and this and that, and we hardly, and how we build, we're out of harmony with how we earn money, how we transfer energy. All right, you go chasing money, so you work so hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and you go 3, 4, 5 days without seeing the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Health issues. We're out of harmony with our fellow creatures, right? In terms of what we consume, we're out of harmony with how we treat our water, right? We're out of harmony with how we. I mean, I could keep going, my brother, but
I love the water one, man, so much.
Yeah, water is powerful, man. If you want to change your water, hit me up on at Cut the Noise if you want to change your water for real. I got you. But all that stuff is just an indication of us being out of harmony with our environment as it was met. And it's so funny that we like look at where we are now health wise, and we think we're so advanced, like we're so far ahead. And it's a joke. We are not at all. In fact, I would argue that we are behind. Like we are taking back steps, because what it is we're getting out of harmony with our environment, creating new health issues, and then inventing new ways to solve those issues. So it's like cut one head and then you get 5 Medusa heads coming up. What problem did you solve, my brother?
Right. Yeah, you solved symptoms. You're not solving the root.
That's right. Fixing the sink when the well is broken. Fixing the sink when the well is the thing broken.
Speaking of wells, if you don't, I don't know how I just said that.
That transition right there. Can we clip that?
We need to.
If you're listening to this and you don't believe how important the quality of your water is, I encourage you to drink public water out of the tap for a year. You might not even do that. Anyways, try public tap water and then try well water and taste all of the ridiculous minerals that come from the well water, and then taste all of the ridiculously poorly tasting and just chemicals that come with the tap water. I'm so blessed in the fact that I grew up on well water. I think that like changed my life. I think it's one of the reasons that my parents are 73 years old and in great health and look so much younger, because they're not ingesting like things like fluoride all the time. So
careful now, brother. Careful now, they're gonna come after you.
Hey, I don't install wells, so they're gonna go to you. Because a lot of the people watching this may not live on a well. They may live on tap water, and they want to filter that tap water through Kangen. So yeah.
But I think that's the place to end. Kobi, wrap this up because we're coming to the hour.
It always disappears, man.
Last thing on this water thing, Google, YouTube, your brain on water. You're welcome. And today, obviously, thank you guys for joining. Talked about starting off the year strong with a plan, but staying fluid throughout the year so that you're tending to your priorities rather than letting your schedule control you. If you're a planner, if you are a fluid type of individual like Stu, having a structure in place that allows you to be fluid within that structure is probably key for you. And obviously talk to Stu if you've got some more questions about that. Appreciate you guys joining. As always, we will see you next week. And next week, Thursday, right? We still doing this? We didn't get canceled. We good? We good?
We didn't get canceled. We're good to go.
Netflix hadn't kicked us off yet.
That's right. Next week, Thursday, we're jumping back in. Not to mention Clubhouse right now, the after party.
Oh yeah, we're switching. And then as my 2 cents out the door, don't think of in terms of yes, no, right, wrong. Think of percentages, man. Think of everything as a spectrum. Like remember the structure and spontaneity thing that we talked about earlier. And then also be specific with your definitions.
That's a great one.
It will help you with your anxiety.
Man, that's it. It's a great way to wrap it up, guys. We want you to win. We want you to make this thing happen. We want you to live a good life. So that's why we're here every Thursday. Come back, check us out next week. Until then, keep living the good life, guys. We'll see you over in Clubhouse.
Keep living a good life.
Wait, what is that circle, though?
What circle? Yeah. Oh, yeah, the circle.
We have to do that real quick.
Join us in Clubhouse to talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
That's a teaser, folks.